You're listening to CX Passport, the show about creating great customer experiences with a dash of travel talk. Each episode, we'll talk with our guest about great CX, travel, and just like the best journeys, explore new directions we never anticipated. I'm your host, Rick Denton. I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport. Let's get going. Today, you're in for a treat as we will be talking with Josh Ramsey. Josh, a dad extraordinaire, also recently founded Prosper Hotels, helping hotels understand and optimize their revenue approach. Prior to that, Josh comes from a background in hospitality and customer centricity. I have found Josh to be one of the more employee-centric people I've met, and I'm looking forward to him sharing his wisdom in that space today. I often find my conversations with Josh taking me to places I never anticipated, sometimes with mind-bending concepts that really get you thinking. I think you'll find this conversational journey a fascinating one. Josh, welcome to CX Passport.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start with an intriguing mission you've stated: to help every executive operate from a place of love, not a place of fear. What do you mean by this?
Yeah, I think a great place to start is the brain, right? So you've got the amygdala, like that's at the base of your brain, and then you've got this prefrontal cortex. And a lot of times we're constantly on alert, right? We're looking for where's the tiger hiding behind the bushes, and this is from so many years of evolution, and because of that. Right. We're paying attention to the negative a lot, and the negative things stick to our brain a lot easier than the positive things.
Okay.
And so when the negative things, this is also the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, right? But so when the negative things happen or the alerts come, that amygdala like kicks in and hijacks your brain. And so you end up operating out of this place of fear, and you make poorer decisions. You are in this scarcity mindset. And so I've just learned from my own life, right, that flows into everything. And so I want to operate from that place of love, not the place of fear, this place of like being in a state of flow, being mindful, being aware of what's going on around me, and being okay with the things exactly as they are instead of wishing for them all to be different. So for me, I think that fear-based mindset often like creeps into our organizations very easily, right? You have a nervous leader that then the nerves start to translate to each of their people, and it just becomes more and more dysfunctional because everyone's trying to take care of the fears that executive has.
Okay.
And so I see it as we all need to learn to love ourselves and be comfortable in our own skin, be comfortable with our own, quirks and idiosyncrasies, so that we're not pushing our fear onto other people and then getting them to operate in that place of fear.
Interesting. Now, I told folks that there would be some mind bending here, and I've already had my mind. The beginnings of a pretzel are already starting here, but I do like the idea, right? Rise above the evolution, rise and focus into that love. And so thinking about that from that perspective of love and not from a perspective of fear, you'd expect to see a great employee experience. It's cliche at this point, I get it, but to say that you can't deliver better customer experience than what you provide an employee experience, yet it's still a problem for companies. How have you helped companies, teams, individuals realize that truth?
Yeah. So, I think everyone has these core needs of being seen, and feeling safe, right? So providing love, safety, and belonging to people creates that environment then for people to thrive. This all kind of, for me, goes back to, I started my career as a pastor and learning, right? Like how do I build community, and how do I help people feel loved and safe and like they belong? because of that fear comes out, right? If I feel like I don't belong, or I feel like I specifically am not contributing to like the larger thing that we're doing here. And so, in my career, even when I was at Hilton, I got to start this revenue management group and grow it to over 150 people. And for me, a lot of that, getting the chance to hire all these people and build this culture, was
Yeah.
about how do I help create this psychological safety where people know like it's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to hide the mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I don't know that I answered your question. I'm trying to remember what the actual question was.
Well, that's the beauty. So even as I say, the beauty of travel is sometimes it takes us in unexpected places. I'd rather
Yeah.
you take us where we're going, and I actually really like that. I'm hearing a lot of that psychological safety. You're seeing a lot of talk about it. You're seeing a lot of that as a point, as being a place where companies, once they've created that psychological safety, then innovation can thrive. And those that don't have that, innovation is, let's just say, more challenged. I won't say impossible, but certainly more challenged in an environment without that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I'd love to give an example. You and I actually got to work on this some together within the customer service space. So we would have this weekly business review where everybody's going over like performance metrics and a lot of operational numbers, right? Where we're looking at how efficient and effective from a cost control and operational perspective things are going. And so one thing that you and I started to do is let's start this meeting with some stories.
Right.
And so every week, right, we would come with specific stories. So here's one on how this customer's life was changed because of the great customer service they were provided. They were going through a really hard time.
Right.
They called in and they needed help. And this specific person like was able to provide that help. And like these are like sometimes these beautiful tear-jerker stories, but it
Correct.
helps connect people back to the mission of like, why are we doing this in the first place? We're not here because we like making efficient organizations. We're here because we want to see people's lives changed. We want to deliver that hospitality. And so sharing those stories, and then sharing also stories of here's where we missed the mark. Like here's one story last week that didn't go well, right? Like the customer was still frustrated and here's what happened there. And for us to look at, okay, where did things fall apart, or what could we have done to set this team member up to be able to be successful in that situation? I think that's about like, how do we, you look at, sometimes it's easy to point the finger at an individual or at a customer, but if you back up and say, what's the environment look like that this person is existing in, you can understand where the real issue usually is.
Yeah, and that is definitely a root at some of that psychological safety, and I think we even
Yeah.
together saw some of that evolution moving that forward there. And it's related but similar vein. I've heard you say that it's foolish to try to separate work and life. Now that's a very contrarian position. So I'm curious what your thoughts are there. Why do you say that?
A great place to start here is Mother Teresa says, work without love is slavery. And then, there's a poet, Khalil Gibran, who says, work is love made visible. And like this idea that, what we put out into the world needs to come from like the depth of who we are. And so if that is the case, right, if we're working from the depths of who we are, you can't separate that,
Okay.
right? It's about bringing your whole self into anything that you're doing that is work. So I'm not talking specifically about like time management, right?
Okay.
I'm talking about energy and integration. That if we're not fully integrated and we're like, I'm gonna separate like the who Josh is on the weekend and with his kids, I'm gonna be a different person. I've got this other persona that I
Yeah,
am
yeah.
at work. That comes out the side at some point, right? Like the dysfunction comes out at some point in time. And so I'm very big on setting boundaries to say like, this is, these are the things I'm going to do within this specific time, and that like, here's sacred time I'm protecting. So I'm not talking specifically about time management more than I am about separating like who you are, or changing your persona for the work that you're doing. Is, I think that's a foolish thing.
That does make a lot that makes a lot of sense. And we've heard the phrase bring your whole self to work, and companies that encourage and support that are,
Mm-hmm.
thriving and really enjoying the fruits of people bringing their whole selves to work. Now, I think here's where we're going to need to sit a little quietly and kind of let you blow our minds. You've told me a little bit about spiral dynamics. Now, I know we don't have time for you to go super deep here, but I'd like to know a little bit more about it and walk me through how this applies to employee experience.
Yeah. So there's a great talk that John Mackey from Whole Foods gave on spiral dynamics, and that was one of the first times that I was really exposed to it. But it's this. What There's not a lot of books on it. They would say it's the biopsychosocial development of humans and societies throughout time, right? And so if you think about like a spiral, starting from kind of the bottom and expanding its way up, kind of like what a tornado would look like, right?
Okay.
Um, and starting at that base level is early civilization, caveman, right? You're at this level. Each of these levels in the spiral have colors. And so you work your way from beige, who is a caveman whose value is survival, into purple, who is this, now we're in a tribe and I want to keep the gods happy and the tribe warm and safe. That's my value. Then moving from purple into red. So instead of doing a rain dance, maybe we should move closer to the river. I'm going to take power into my own hands,
Okay.
to like deliver the things that I need. Like I'm gonna break out from the tribe a little bit and take power, right? Like act to get what I want. And then so from red is like blue, which is we evolve as a society. We have rules, we create a government, we have a military, and we all stick to the rules. From blue, you move to orange, which is like kind of what I would think of as like a hedge fund manager, right? Like, let's do the analytics on this. Like, let's understand from a metrics perspective what is important and what isn't. And then from orange, you move into green, which is like, okay, let's actually pay more attention to our society as a whole. And what are my actions? How do those impact other people in our society? We all kind of operate in this spiral in different places. So like I may be living in the green, or I may be living in the blue, and there's nothing wrong with either one of those, right?
Okay.
So I want to be clear that I think that there's a healthy level at every color in the spiral, and that we are all in different places in the spiral, in our own life individually, and then also though in the like communities that we're a part of. So regardless of where we are in the spiral, if you and I go to a football game, we immediately turn purple. We're in that tribal space where
Yeah.
we're like, keep the gods happy. Like we become very superstitious. We're all, like your values change.
That's right.
Um, and so you see this in different places, like where people are. So I think like a company has its own kind of like values center of gravity. Every individual has their own kind of like values center of gravity, which would be like the color in the spiral. And so I think like from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective, from an employee experience perspective, we all have to realize that we are coming to different scenarios with different values.
Mm-hmm.
And we may be in a different place. Like you kind of see this with like a Maslow's hierarchy as well, right? If I'm food insecure, I have a different, I'm not, I'm not thinking about like how to optimize my retirement account right now, right?
Right.
Like there's different points within the spectrum that we're all coming to different scenarios, and we all end up having different values because of that. And so I think it's critical to like acknowledge, okay, as a company, where are we in this spiral? And where's my customer at as well? So like how can I meet them where they are and make sure that I'm speaking to their values, even though my values may not be exactly the same.
Ooh, little change of pace here. I think after that level of deep thinking, we need to stop in and have a quick bite and a beverage to relax between flights. I'd like you to join me here in the first class lounge. We'll move quickly here and hopefully have a little fun. That's a dream travel location from your past.
I would have to say Kauai. Yeah.
Beautiful place. Dream travel location you've not been to yet.
I would love to get to like Sardinia.
Ooh, tell me more.
I don't know. I just like I have these dreams of sitting like on the countryside and drinking wine and eating Italian food.
That sounds delightful. So, in that vein, what is your favorite thing to eat?
Tacos. I could eat tacos for every meal. But if I'm traveling, I would say in like going to the good restaurants, like for, business lunches and whatnot, I just always order a burger because I feel like it's the standard kind of thing that you can, test the quality of a place. Is like I like to just pick one thing and like stick with it throughout the time.
Man, I'm getting hungry. I shouldn't have asked that question.
Yeah.
But thing your parents forced you to eat, but you hated as a kid.
I hate, like, I still hate it, is hominy. I don't know why, but like
Huh.
my body can't handle the texture. I just don't like it. I don't know. It just like makes me cringe. It's a
Now
strange
that
thing.
shows your roots too, because I bet there is a good portion of our listeners that just now went alt tabbed and opened up a browser and Googled hominy.
Yeah,
So
right.
I love it, but I can
Corn
understand why.
nuts, I like corn nuts, which are the same thing, but I can't do like just regular
So
hominy.
no hominy for you. Well,
Yeah.
what is one travel item you will not leave home without?
I always take my Apple TV with me. And so it's a little bit of a pain to get it like connected, or you just have to use your own hotspot for it, when you're in a hotel a lot of times. But it's just like so nice to be able to plug in my own thing and have control.
You've worked for a hospitality company. How have you seen employee experience ultimately impact the travel experience?
Yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier. There are about managing out of a place of love versus a place of fear. I'm sure you've been to hotels where like everything at the service level is right. The service is being provided. But there's a bit of like inauthenticity to it. And a lot of times that comes from the leader, right? As the leader coming from a place of love or a place of fear. I have to say, like, going to the Hilton Houston Americas has been a great like experience for me over and over again. I've met the GM there, Jacques, and the way that he just is managing from this like a place of love, it's clear, and you can tell that the people that are there that are coming are sharing that same thing.
I love that, and I now am looking to find a reason to go stay at that hotel. It sounds delightful, and I need to find my way down there. So, thinking about that in that travel space, what are some of the experiences you've had that have informed your views on things like employee experience and overall customer experience and how that all weaves together?
Yeah. So last year, back when there were speaking gigs, I went to Sacramento to give one to some executives, and but part of that was kind of like a combo of like a work and a vacation trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were going to fly into Sacramento, do these talks, and then drive the one
Mm-hmm.
to to LA and leave from there. And so like enjoying this like beautiful scenery, and taking our time over a few days. We get to the rental car place. I had like booked a premium car, but they didn't have like one with a sunroof. And we were like, if we're gonna be like
Right.
enjoying this, it's gonna be really difficult. And so I went and talked to it was one of those lots where you go out and you pick your car,
Hmm.
and so I went and talked to the person that was at the desk, and she was super helpful, and just ask like kind of values based questions. What are you like? What is it about these cars that isn't working for you? And
Oh,
she's like
interesting.
looking around. I booked the premium, like I had booked a premium one, but like I think that there was still like a super premium that we didn't pay for, and she's just like looking around, and then she found this like amazing Jaguar F-Type, like
Ooh,
with a sunroof.
okay.
It was an SUV, and it was like getting cleaned at the moment. And she was like, "Let me see what I can do." She booked that for us, and it was just so nice to be taken care of, and to just for her to like, I was coming to her a little bit flustered, and like knowing that like technically I didn't deserve getting something else.
Hmm.
Just they had cars that I had, that were within the parameter that I had paid for, and it wasn't available. And so like, but she was able to really like listen to us, see how important this was, not push some upgrade on us or anything else, and like deliver a great experience.
Yeah, and I could see how something like that. So you started it off by even saying, "Hey, she asked me value-based questions," and it
Mm-hmm.
sounds a lot like, yeah, I frequently use this Disney phrase that she was looking to restore the relationship, not fix the issue. And as you pointed out, there really wasn't an issue. Something
Mm-hmm.
hadn't broken. It
Yeah.
just so happened that you, the customer, had a hope or an expectation that was different than what was being fulfilled. And I love
Yep.
how she seemed to probe and think through that. I wonder if, you know, if you were to go a little deeper with her and find out, what's her employee experience like? Does she work in an environment that does that same sort of thing, that explores,
Mm-hmm.
you know, who she is and what she wants to do, and coming out of going all the way back to a place of love, not a place of fear?
Yeah, that's a great point. Like you think about for her, like or for me as the customer, if she wouldn't have done all of that, I would have taken a car that was there, and I would have
Yeah.
been okay with it. But there still would have been this like underlying gnawing feeling, like I didn't get exactly what I wanted, and just a tiny bit of disappointment, which
Yeah.
carries over into like my affinity toward that brand. But it's like, exactly to your point, what kind of questions does her leader ask her,
Yeah.
that get to that point of understanding values and what matters to her, and making sure that I want to make sure I'm helping you get what you want out of this role. And so, yeah, it all carries over.
You know, I've seen you talk a lot about root cause analysis, and I think about your story there specifically. And it would be really easy to say that, okay, well, the car wasn't available, so we need to increase inventory of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And that would address the symptom. But perhaps going
Yep.
deeper, and there's techniques like the 5 whys and other sorts of things,
Yeah.
but there could be a root cause analysis all the way back to when you were booking the vehicle and what clarity
Mm-hmm.
was established for you with what premium meant.
Mm-hmm.
And were there opportunities for you to express, hey, this is what I'm using it for? And I know we've all gone through the car rental booking process, and some of the things I'm describing are well beyond what it might do.
Sure.
But if you were to truly do a deep root cause analysis on your experience, how do you think you'd tackle it?
There's this author named Byron Katie, that has a kind of an interesting technique that I've started to use, and it mostly comes about like when you're experiencing like a pain or a frustration, and so for me, so she says to ask a series of like 4 questions,
Mm-hmm.
which is it true? How can I know that it's true? And then like, how do I react when I believe that thought? And then who would you be without that thought? And so these are things that kind of go back to like what we were saying, like managing things and leading from a place from within. So it's not like I think as a leader, a lot of times we can get frustrated with a team member and say, oh well, she didn't do the thing that was right, she didn't follow the rules. And if that's the case, right, then you would say, is that true that she didn't follow the rules? And how can I know that that's true?
I see.
And so you start to like do this work to really like dig deeper and understand why you believe the things that you do or what's really at the bottom of it. I've heard her kind of do the work with an older, like a dad. And he was saying, I'm so frustrated because I go to pick up my daughter from, school, and she doesn't listen and she won't get in her car seat. And so she does this work with him and gets to the point where he's saying, she's being a baby and she's not listening. I'm frustrated. And she asks these questions and realizes the daughter wanted to just walk around the school, like the daughter is excited to see dad, wants to spend a little time with him. And her car seat's hot, right? Like there's like so many other things going on. And so he discovers that. And at the end, he's turned the whole thing around and realizes I'm the one that's not listening to my daughter, right? Like
Yeah.
She just wants to, like, if I would have just taken one walk around the school with her and made sure that her, like the car is cool enough and her seat's comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's being a baby. It's not actually her. And so like a lot of times, like I think about like that scenario as a leader for me to come back to, okay, what do I really know is true? And what if the opposite were true? Who am I, like, without that thought? And you can try to start taking your misconceptions out of it and realize like, okay, what can I do that contributes to this environment?
Yeah. Well, I did. I told our listeners that this would be a bit of a mind bender, and it definitely was. And here I am coming to this question and saying, the 5 whys, and you're like, no. Let's talk about these deeper questions. Let's twist your mind, and it is in a full pretzel. So, Josh, I really thank you. I mean, I love that we started talking about working from a place of love, not a place of fear, and certainly opening my eyes to your perspective on how you bring your whole self to work. It's not work-life balance. It's just being willing to be you wherever you are, whether that's work or life. And certainly the spiral dynamics is going to take some time for me to digest, but I'm intrigued by it, and I love the thought. And thank you certainly for sharing the travel stories. I think there's a lot to unpack there, and I love your approach to root cause analysis. So that's great. It's been a delight talking customer experience and travel with you. I'm so glad that you were here on CX Passport today. Thanks a lot. It was really fun, Josh. I enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us this week on CX Passport. Make sure to visit our website, cxpassport.com, where you can hit subscribe so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, you can check out the rest of the EX for CX website. If you're looking to get real about customer experience, EX for CX is available to help you increase revenue by starting to listen to your customers and create great experiences for every customer every time. Thanks for listening to CX Passport, and be sure to tune in for our next episode. Until next time, I'm Rick Denton, and I believe the best meals are served outside and require a passport.